Hello and welcome back to More Math. We are moving on to our next fun topic. And what is that you're saying? It's a great topic. It's the greatest topic. It's the greatest common factor that we're going to talk about now. All right, greatest common factor. What does that mean? Let's break it down a little bit. If we take the greatest common factor, that is, we call it oftentimes the GCF. So this is going to be the GCF, the greatest common factor. The greatest. What is the greatest? I know, it's me. Thank you. Just kidding. The greatest is the biggest one, right? It's the one with the most. It's the mostest. The greatest is the tallest, the biggest. I'm saying the same things again. You know what the greatest is. It's the absolute best. It's the greatest. It's the most. I'm repeating myself and moving on. Common. What does common mean? Common. Common. You and I have something in common. We both like math. Okay, maybe you don't like it as much as me, but you're here. We're both doing math, so that's great. Common. It's the same. Something we can all do that's the same. Factor. Ooh, factor. Do you remember what a factor is? That's a little trickier. A factor. If you don't remember, a factor is I can take two numbers, for example, 2 times 3 equals 6. A factor is the number that I multiply to another number to get the product. These are the factors. This is the product. That's our math vocabulary for the day. What do you think of that? All right. Oh, wait, Mrs. Moore, there's a dot there instead of an X to show multiplication. You're right. You're at least in middle school probably watching this. And if you're not, this topic is you're getting into middle school topics here, right? We are not going to use an X to show multiplication. Why not? Pretty soon you're going to start getting into situations where an X is something called a variable and it's another mathy thing. And we're not doing that yet, but we want to start getting in the habit of using a dot to show multiplication instead of an X. Okay, so anytime I'm showing multiplication, you're going to see a dot here and not an X. Now, is that completely true? No. Will I still use an X maybe? Maybe. But in general, that's what you're going to see. Okay? All right, so we said the greatest common factor is the biggest number that's the same factor out of some numbers here. Okay, well, let's find out what that means exactly. So the first thing I want to look at is I want to make sure we remember how to find factors for a number, because it's hard to find the greatest common factor if you can't find a factor. So let's start with the number 24. I want to know the factors of 24. In other words, what numbers can I multiply together that will give me the product that will equal to 24? So here we have 24, and we're going to make a t-table underneath it. I think this is the easiest way to show factors. There's a lot of different ways to do it, and if you know how to do it and you're good at it, do it your way. But if you're like, oh, I struggle with factors, this might help, okay? So when I'm looking for the factors of 24, when I'm looking for the numbers that I can multiply together that will equal 24, I'm always going to start with 1. So I'm always going to put a 1 here, and I'm going to say 1 times what is 24? In other words, 24 divided by 1 is 24. Hopefully we know that one already. And now I'm going to work my way down, and I'm just going to go through each number and see if it works. So the next question is 2. Is 2 a factor of 24? Well, yes, it is. How do you know that 2 is a factor of 24? Because 24 is an even number. And just as a reminder, what's our even numbers? 2, 4, 6, 8, 0. Those are our even numbers. 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? Me. No, even numbers. That's who we appreciate. So any number that ends in 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0 is an even number, and it's always divisible by 2. All right, so we're going to put a 2, and now we're going to say 2 times what is 24? In other words, what is 24 divided by 2? 12. Nice job. Oh, I forgot to do this earlier. Did you get a piece of paper and a pencil? I hope so. You could use a whiteboard and marker. I love whiteboards and markers, obviously. But maybe you have a paper and pencil? But please do this with me. Don't just watch. When you just watch, you're not involved. You're not using all those little circuits in your brain. I promise you will get much more out of this if you pretend to doodle with me a little, okay? All right, now let's try the next number. We did 1, we tried 2, let's try 3. Does 3 go into 24? It does. We're going to say 3, and 3 times what is 24? 3 times 8. 8 times 3 is 24. Let's try the next one. 4. Does 4 go into 24? Yep. That's one that I memorized as a kid. 6 times 4 is 24. So we got 4 and 6. And now the next one is 5. Does 5 go into 24? It does not. So I'm not going to write down 5. And next we have 6. But look, 6 is already here. We're done. Good job. Our factors of 24 is 1 times 24 equals 24. 2 times 12 equals 24. 3 times 8 equals 24. 4 times 6 is equal to 24. So if you're having trouble finding factors of a number, this is one way to find them that I think works really well. So now let's write it out. We can write out those factors. We can say the number is 24. Whoops. How about I write the whole number, not just the 2? The number is 24. And what are the factors? The factors are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 24. Okay? And I would like you to write down, if you're taking notes, maybe you have a little notebook and you're actually like taking notes, we could write a little note in there and we can say, let's use this one. We could say 2 times 12 equals 24. And again, these are the factors, and this is the product. Okay? All right. So now we can talk again about the GCF. The GCF, the greatest common factor. So what we're going to talk about is we're going to have two numbers, and we're going to see what is the greatest, the biggest, common, same factor that they both have. That's what we're going to look for here. Okay? Here we go. Let's find the greatest common factor of 8 and 12. That's a terrible 8. Pretend it's beautiful. So these are pretty small numbers. I don't feel like I need to make a t-table. I think I know the factors for 8 and 12. I could say I think 8 is going to have, well, the first factor is going to be 1, and then 2, and let's see, 3 doesn't go into 8, but 4 does. 4, and 5 doesn't, and 6 doesn't, and 7 doesn't, but 8 does. So my factors of 8 are 1 times 8 is 8, and 2 times 4 is 8. What are my factors for 12? Well, let's write this down. We're going to put 12. What are my factors? Well, we've got 1, because 1 times 12, and 2, it's an even number, so I know 2 goes into there, and 3 does, because I know that 3 times 4 is 12, and let's see, 2 times 6 is 12, and then 1 times 12 is 12. So I can do it with smaller numbers. It's not a big deal just to list out the factors. You may not need to make a t-table, but it's helpful to know. Anyway, so I'm looking at this, and I want to say, what is the greatest common factor of 8 and 12? Well, they both have a 1. They do. They both have a 2. Okay, that's common. It's a factor, but I don't know if it's the greatest yet. So they both have a 1. They both have a 2. They don't both have a 3, so that one doesn't count at all. We're going to forget about that. They both have a 4. Oh, they both don't have an 8, they don't have a 6, and they don't have a 12. So here's my common factors. My common factors are 1, 2, and 4. What is the greatest common factor? It is 4, because they both have a 4. And that's all it is. We're saying, what are the factors and which one's the biggest? That is the greatest common factor. So that was pretty easy. But what if I give you some bigger numbers? That might be a little harder to compare, and you like a long list. I'm going to show you the easiest way to find the greatest common factor. And as a matter of fact, it works with the small ones too. Once you understand how to do it, you will understand the beauty of upside down division. Some people call it birthday cake division. All right, so we're going to use the numbers, already forgot, 48 and 36. So I'm going to say, I want to know if I have 48 and 36, what is the greatest common factor? So I just want you to watch me this time. It's going to be pretty new to you, I'm going to guess. So just kind of watch what I do here. I'm going to put both my numbers down. And normally when we do division, we draw our little divisor bar thing up here. We're going to go this way. It's going to go upside down division. And now I'm going to divide out a factor. And you can divide out any factor. Okay, if you already know the answer, pretend that you don't. Just work with me because we're learning how to do it so that we can do it with easier ones to work with harder ones later, okay? So just pretend you don't know how to do it yet if you already do. I'm going to look at that and I'm going to say, gosh, I don't know anything that goes into both of those. I would encourage you to start with your smallest prime numbers. Prime just means it's only one in itself are the factors, right? What's the smallest number that'll go into both of those? Not one. One doesn't change anything. But it's going to be 2, right? Because they're both even. 48, 36. They're both even numbers. I know I can pull out a 2. So I'm going to put a 2 here. And now I'm going to do that division. I'm going to say, what is 48 divided by 2? It's 24. If you're not sure, you can use a calculator. I would love for you to learn your facts and be able to do it with, I would love for you to be able to learn your facts and do it without a calculator. But if you need one, that's okay. So we would take 48, divide it by 2, and we're going to get 24. What is 36 divided by 2? It's going to be 18. You know, those are both still even. I know that I can pull out another 2. So I'm going to draw another layer to my birthday cake for my upside down division, right? I'm going to pull out 2 again because these are both even numbers. I know I can pull out a 2. What is 24 divided by 2? Beautiful. It is 12 indeed. What is 18 divided by 2? Nice. It is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. Now I'm looking at this. 12 and 9. Is 9 an even number? It is not. So I know that 2 is not a common factor. It is a factor of 12. 12 is even, but 9 is not. 2 is not a common factor. So now I'm going to try the next one. 3. Does 3 go into 12 and 9? Sure does. Let's add another layer here. Let's pull out our 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now, are there any more factors that they both have? There are not. As soon as I get to the point where I have numbers that are consecutive, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 10, 11, any numbers that are right next to each other on the number line, 3, 4, I know I'm done. There's no more common factors other than 1, and 1 we don't use because it doesn't change anything. 1 doesn't do any math for us. Okay, so we have found the common factors. The common factors are 2, 2, and 3. These are common factors. But what's the greatest common factor? The greatest common factor, watch what I'm doing here. You see these numbers on the outside? I'm going to put a big C around them. I'm going to go C right here. This is our common factor. I'm going to erase that off so you can tell it's a C and not attached over there. This is a C. These are our common factors. And if we multiply them together, we can go 2 times, remember I use a dot for multiplication now, 2 times 3. This one times this one times this one. I'm going to multiply together all the common factors. What do we get? 2 times 2 is 4, times 3 is 12. Our greatest common factor is 12. That means the biggest number that goes into 48 and 36, the biggest factor that goes into both of them, is 12. You just found the greatest common factor pretty easily. I want to add a note on here. Like we did before, we said these were the factors. And this, because I've multiplied them all together, is the GCF. This is the greatest common factor. So you're thinking to yourself, why do I care about greatest common factor? What is the point of this? I mean, okay, it's math and maths are cool and numbers are fun and that was cool how it worked, but why do I care? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give you an example. Let us pretend that you've decided you need to make money and you have made cookies and you made 36 chocolate chip cookies and you made 45 snickerdoodle cookies. Okay? You're going to take all these cookies, you want to use them all, and you want to split them up into bags, boxes, however you want to sell them, that has an equal number of chocolate chip cookies and snickerdoodles in each bag. Okay? So we can guess and check. We can say, well, I think I need to put this many chocolate chip and that many snickerdoodles, and will it come out even? Or we can do greatest common factor to get it. Let me show you. So let's do our upside down division like we just did. We're going to draw our upside down division sign. We're going to say, what is a common factor for 36 and 45? Well, 2 doesn't work because 2 doesn't go into 5. It's not even. Does 3 work? Yep, 3 is going to go into both of them. Again, if you're not sure, just grab that calculator. Put in 36 divided by 3, 45 divided by 3. Got a whole number for an answer. You're good. So 36 divided by 3 would be what? 12. 45 divided by 3 would be 3 goes into 4 one time, leaves me 15. 3 times 5 is 15. 12 and 15. Okay. 2 still doesn't go into it. As a matter of fact, it's not going to. Once I know 2 is not going to work, it's never going to work. I don't even have to think about it again. But I do need to try 3 again. Does 3 work? It does. We can pull out a 3 again. So we get 3. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay. Again, remember we talked about if they get to be consecutive, we know we're done. We are done. 4, 5. I know I'm done. So my greatest common factor is what? It's my big C. It's right there. So my greatest common factor is going to be 9. So that means the GCF equals how many groups? When I'm breaking it up into groups, I use the GCF. So how many containers am I going to make? I'm going to make 9. So I'm going to have 9 bags of cookies. By the way, each bag of cookie is going to have 4 chocolate chip and 5 snickerdoodles. I don't usually use S because it looks too much like a 5. I forgot. All right. So isn't that cool? The greatest common factor, 9, tells me how many bags I have. My leftovers here, just like last night's meatloaf, that leftover tells me how many. So I have 9 packages of 4 chocolate chip cookies and 5 snickerdoodle cookies. Let's try another one. Let's say you're in band, and this particular band has 75 girls and 90 boys. It's a nice big band. Band director loves it. Great sound. But she wants to line them up. She wants them to sit in rows and columns that are even, an even number of girls and boys in each row. How many boys and how many girls have to go into each row if it's even to have the same number in each row? Greatest common factor. Here we go. So we'll make our little upside down division sign. What number goes into 75 and 90? Well, 2 doesn't because 75 is not an even number. So the next prime number is 3. 3 goes into both of them. So I'm going to pull out a 3. 3 goes into 75. How many times? The easiest way to think about 75 is that it's 3/4. We all like money, right? If I have 3/4, that's 75. If I divide it by 3, how many is it? It's 25. 75 divided by 3 is 25. It's 1/4. What is 90 divided by 3? 9 divided by 3 is 3, so it is 30. Okay. Let's see. Does 3 go into those again? Nope. 3 is not going to go into 25. 4 does not go into both of them, but 5 does. How do you know 5 goes into both of those? Any number that ends in a 5 or a 0, it has a factor of 5. 5 always goes into every number that ends in a 5 or a 0. So let's pull out the 5. What is 25 divided by 5? 5. Good job. What is 30 divided by 5? 6. Oh, look. 5, 6. Our numbers are consecutive. And that's not going to work every time. I just happen to pick ones that become consecutive. Sometimes you'll get 2 numbers and you'll have to stop and think if they have a common factor or not. But again, if they're consecutive, right in order, we know that we're done. All right, so what does that mean? That means our greatest common factor, I'm putting a C right here, our greatest common factor is 3 times 5. Those are our factors. We're going to multiply them together, and we get 15. So what does that mean? That means we're going to have 15 rows And each row is going to have 5 girls and 6 boys. See how that worked? All right. I think 2 examples is good. I think we'll stop there. I really appreciate you joining me. I hope this made sense and helped, and I look forward to seeing you next time.